Hello, so I'm Kirsteen Lyons Benson and my brand is Kirsteen's Art, and I'm just doing a little experiment with a YouTube video and see if my friends like it. And I thought I'd look at the proportions of the face, roughly how to draw a face. So how I draw faces is I always start with an oval. And you end up having to build the chin onto that a little bit and a line down the middle, because faces are roughly the same on both sides, although a trick of real good portraiture is to get the differences. And halfway through that is about where the eyes are going to fall. Interestingly, one of the big mistakes people make is they put the eyes up here, but if you look straight on at a face, they're usually about halfway down. And if we half this again, it gives us approximately where the bottom of the nose will go, and half it again for the mouth. And like I say, you sometimes have to build a bit more chin on there. Depends on the individual. Now, how far apart are the eyes? Well, they vary a lot because you get close set eyes and far apart eyes, but roughly as far apart as the size of an eye. So all these measurements are obviously rough guides because everybody's different, and that's the point at which you have to look. Then if you carry that inside corner of the eye down, you get roughly the width of the nose. So now you have the width of the nose and where the bottom of the nose falls. And if you take a line from the middle of the eye down, you get roughly the width of the mouth right out to the little crease in the corner. A little sort of, yeah. So they're going to put the mouth in there. Just now, eyes are approximately sort of lemon shaped usually. Again, everything that is a rule, the rule is always less important than looking. You look at the person in front of you. The backbone of good drawing is good observation. And you should spend more time looking at the person than you do looking at the paper. If you don't have the person in front of you, then look at a photograph of them. And if you don't have a photograph, then you're stuck with working from memory, and there's no observation. Eyebrows vary so much. You can put them up there and look kind of surprised, or you can put them down here and look like you're a bit more, maybe a little cross or a little more concentrating, and the shape of them also changes so much as well. So I think with eyebrows it's more a case of just observe, because they can be also removed and drawn in a different place, as was very fashionable in the 70s. The hairline starts about here, because this is looking at the skull going away from you. So that's how people end up with eyes high up, because they forget the top of the skull. So if you have a fringe, it's going to come forward from this point, and this is more of your hair going sideways or back from there. So if you look straight ahead at someone, you see a bit of the top of their head as well as their face. So this is their whole head, and then this is just their face. So drawing noses is famously difficult because they don't really have outlines, they're just shapes and shade. But the bottom part, I mean, all drawing is actually kind of a lie, because objects don't have outlines when you come to, usually. They have planes and surfaces and joins with other planes and surfaces, and so you're creating outlines on things that are actually blocks of colour. When you paint, it's a much more truthful process, because you actually create blocks of colour for blocks of colour. So drawing is like a trick of choosing which bits are important. This is me actually drawing in the person's hand next to their face, which I'm actually going to leave out because it probably confuses the issue. We'll do the main proportions. So we've got split the face in half this way to give you two symmetrical sides, split it in half this way to give you rough eyes, nose and mouth. We've got the top of the head and the brow. This part of the top of the head is visible. If you're going to put ears in here, they roughly go, you only usually see a tiny bit at the top because they're sitting flat against the head, but they roughly go between this eye line and this nose line. And then you can tuck that in a bit to give you a cheekbone. Remember, there's a cheekbone across there, an eye socket here. Eyes are whole spheres that exist inside the head like that. So when you come to draw this socket, remember that there is a whole ball in there. Now I'm going to take that out again because she looks part cyborg, but you got to remember that with the light and shade, you're actually there's a whole ball in there. You seldom see the whole circle of this part of the eye, unless it makes people look very wide and starey if you do. So it's better to usually put a bit of lid covering over it. But you do see the whole of the black bit. And Europeans have a double lid usually. Oriental people sometimes don't, sometimes do, and I believe you can get surgery to change it as well. So again, you're going to have to look at what's in front of you with a person. So there's a little corner in the eyes, the lemon shape with a little cornery edgy bit that collects tears and creates tears or something. Obviously not into the technical terms here. Now, necks. Another thing that people do that makes things look cartoony is they stick little narrow necks. Eyes go up on the forehead and they stick little narrow necks. The head is the heaviest part of the body proportional to size. It's full of a lot of liquid and brains and such, we hope. So it needs quite a bit of supporting, and unlike drawings of Barbie and animated characters, usually even the most graceful people have quite a thick neck, even my slim little daughter. So, and then the shoulders and so on. Right, let's look at a bit of light and shade on this. So we've got the rough proportions. The light can be very directional, coming from one direction, but usually if you're outside and out and about, there's a lot of different light coming from the sky, reflected off walls and the ground and surfaces, and so there's quite a lot of light all over the place. But you will get certain things that are usual. One is, as I mentioned before, the eyes are sockets, so you probably get some shade in there, and then you get this. It's going to be lovely and dark, and so we try to put some tone in, then the drawing starts to have more to it. If you just stick with one heaviness of colour, then it's always a bit flat. To pick out the nose, there's a shape like a little, cherry on the end. These tends to be a bit of shadow under the nose. If it's sunlight or something, it casts its own little shadow. And the bottom lip is almost always lighter than the top lip, because this one's catching shadow and this one's catching sun. And you have to look, because like I say, someone could have a torch right here and that would change the whole setup, but these are the general. You also usually have a little chin shape, so you get another little shadow occurring there. Both eye sockets, of course. And you start to get, if you get too much shade under the eye here, it tends to start to age people. So especially if you're drawing in pen where there's no soft smudginess, if you're drawing in charcoal or pencils, these are really good media for portraits, because there's all this soft smudginess, and you don't just have line or no line. With pen, it's full on hard. I put some eyelashes in. So if you're drawing in pen, I would avoid lines under the eyes unless you're drawing someone really old, because otherwise everybody you draw looks like they're 90, and all your friends will disown you and say, "You're never drawing me again." Also, if you're drawing portraits of your friend, it's a good idea to warn them that it's artistic and it's practice. It's not going to be one of these portraits you get on the streets of London where they design it to flatter you and it looks nothing like you. What else can I tell you? So I'm a great one for leaving in my construction lines because I always think they're very interesting. A little shadow under the chin there too, and then you've got a hollow in your neck. But I am going to take them out here because otherwise it's also not going to look finished. There's so these are the lines I use to mark where everything is, and that's what I'm saying as in construction line, like I constructed my drawing with them. And now I've constructed my drawing, so I don't need them anymore. And they are making everything shake, rubbing them out, I'm sure. As you can see, it's a very high quality production here. There's different ways that people draw faces. So, you know, with any art advice from me, it's always what works for you. What's in front of you, what you observe is your truth. What you like is your create. So if it feels like, you know, that Kirsteen told me this and just isn't working on this picture, please reject it. Anything that you ever get told about art that doesn't work for you, please reject it. The other thing is, I highly recommend that if you're doing art, you don't underestimate the practice involved. I consider that I'm still nowhere near where I want to be, and I've been drawing all my life. I have a degree. I've been drawing since I was a child. At one point I drew a drawing a day every day for 2 entire years just for practice. I still think that I have a massive way to go. And if you've learned a skill like driving a car, you probably spent 10,000 hours getting really good at it after your test. And so don't sort of follow a couple of tutorials, compare what you've done to what's in your mind. That's a big mistake because your mind is always creating exactly what you envision, and the crude matter of the universe is not sufficient to duplicate that. So compare it with your best previous drawing, not what you imagine you could do, because no one is ever going to attain. Those are your creations that you make in your mind, but they're not comparable to creations made of pencil and material universe things. So, you know, just give them a good thank you. Wow, I created something wonderful in my mind, and then let them alone. The proper thing to compare your artwork with is your previous drawings. My dad likes to say, get it right in the next one, and it's one of my favourite truths about art. It is never a final, irretrievable moment, you know, it's a process. And I think I've maybe gotten a bit heavy with this line here, so I'm going to have to get that one right in the next one. Got excited about the shade. So there's a mark around there. She's still maybe a little bit, needs a bit more definition. This nose is narrow at the top and wider at the bottom. I am going to put some dark under the eye, as there is some form there, even though I don't want her to look shadowy because I'm thinking she's youthful. Yeah, I've definitely got more on this side than that side, but I'm not going to rub out all this dark. So there you go. The basics are, you make an oval, you half it in both directions. The eyes are about as on the halfway line. They're about as big as the space between them. And this is about half an eye as well to the side of the head. Another halving of this gives you approximately the bottom of the nose. Another halving of this gives you approximately the height of the mouth. A line down from the eyes gives you approximately the width of the mouth, right to the very little dimply bits or whatever. And the ears fit in this space if you can see them. You don't usually see the whole coloured part of the eye. And the eyebrows are so variable that I really think that any rule for them is a bit, you know, almost not worth knowing. And the hair will start about here. So if they have no fringe, it'll go back from there. Truth is that you can probably have to build the chin on because the skull tends to be a circle with a whole piece on there with a joint if you look at it sideways. These rules are also true sideways. approximately halfway down is where the eye falls, about half of that, bottom of the nose, about half of that, but then you're building on this huge chin. So let's see, that would put the eye on this line, the nose on this line, and the mouth on this line. You can see that it's still halfway down the head there, and halfway down the bottom part and halfway down what's left. So this is a very quick little drawing, but it starts to show you that from the side it is approximately the same row. Thank you very much. I'm Kirsteen Lyons, and my brand is Kirsteen's Art.